Hello, everybody! Welcome to the new episode of Silver Screen Anomalies. I'm Hallie.
And I'm Skyler.
And we're both really excited because it is spooky month.
It's October, my favorite month.
October. But we're not doing a spooky movie this time, are we?
That's confusing as hell.
Isn't it, though? No, I'm just excited that it's Halloween month.
Well, as we brought up in our previous podcast episode, which was on both of the It films, recent It films,
It sure was.
Holy crap.
I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting to drop that for a while.
I'm ignoring it.
I know. It's okay, though.
And that'll be the last of the It puns for today, folks. Anyway, it became very obvious and apparent to us that we cover a lot of horror content. So we decided for the beginning of October, to confuse y'all, we would do a double feature of some fun, wacky sci-fi stuff.
That's right. And as always, we're not a spoiler-free podcast. Stop listening if you haven't seen these and want to before you listen to us.
Spoil the shit out of it.
We will ruin them for you. And we'd feel kind of bad, but also not really bad because
you've
been warned.
Bad. Hallie will feel a little bad, but I won't feel bad at all. Direct all of your hate mail to me. Here's
Please,
my address.
Go ahead. All right. So why don't we jump right into outer space, as it were.
The first film on our docket today is Ad Astra. It was just released this past September, and it is directed by James Gray.
Let's hear a synopsis for it, Skyler.
Ad Astra is set in the not-too-distant future, charting a space exploration of Roy McBride, played by Brad Pitt, as he travels through the deepest recesses of our solar system in search for his estranged father, old wrinkle-faced McGee, Tommy Lee Jones.
Did you just call him old wrinkle-faced McGee?
Thank you, that'll be all. This journey is not only an unraveling of Roy's inner self, but humanity's search for the meaning of life itself. And how many wrinkles Tommy Lee Jones has on his face.
Okay, then. So, Skyler, Ad Astra.
So we saw this film together as a group. We
did?
Yeah. I know generally how you feel about this.
Oh, you know that I fucking love this movie?
Yeah, me too. I also fucking love this movie.
Yeah, we fucking love this movie. So
I hope you're ready for us to massage this movie an awful lot because we love... We
Skyler,
loved this movie.
Drink more of your coffee, Skyler.
I'm working on it.
I know. Do it faster.
Hallie, why don't you talk about how much you like this movie?
I did love this movie.
While I drink my coffee.
Starting with the story. If you take this movie at face value, the story is very straightforward. It's very well written. It is a narrative about a man trying to find his father. However, there are so many more levels to the narrative here that are just... you don't expect. Like, the trailer was so misleading for me.
Totally. The biggest issue with this film is its advertising.
It looks like an action movie, and it's not.
I even remember when we entered the theater, and I looked at you, and I was like... So just to let you know, I don't think this is an action movie.
Yeah. And
I'm getting a lot of art house vibes off of this.
Art house is about right. It is gorgeous to look at. But we'll get to that. There's so many levels to this narrative talking about, are we alone in the universe? It's got dealing with trauma, dealing with the past, accepting the past, and embracing the future and the unknown. It's got so much going for it. The monologues. So a large chunk of this film is Brad Pitt and his internal monologue while he goes on this quest to find his father. And monologues are hard to pull off in a movie, but these are so beautifully written and so amazingly delivered. I was completely unaware of time passing.
It's not just the monologues themselves, it's also Brad Pitt's performance because he does so much with very little. Like, to put it into perspective, he's playing a character, like Roy McBride as a character is very much almost like a Neil Armstrong type, where his pulse doesn't reach above 85 at any given moment. He's borderline, like, ranging on, like, comatose through a lot of the movie. Like, he's very non-expressive, he's asleep. He's very non-emotional and can react very, very calmly in the most dire situations. I mean, there's the opening sequence of this where he's
on a giant, what is it, satellite of some kind. It's
a satellite, yeah.
And it's not in space, it's in the atmosphere, right?
Correct.
And a sudden electronic pulse disables something. There's an explosion on the station while he's outside working maintenance, and he falls. It's
very much the catalyst for the remainder of the movie because it's where the first electrical impulse hits and is threatening life on Earth
That's right.
itself.
There's an electric pulse that's coming from somewhere in the galaxy there.
It's in the solar system.
In our solar system, there is an electronic wave that's hitting Earth, causing massive damage, massive blackouts, and threatening life on Earth, essentially. So the military connects with Mr. McBride, Brad Pitt's character, to find the source, which they believe has something to do with his father.
And the connection to his father is very much my biggest takeaway from this movie. I mean, there's a lot to unpack, like you said, but really at the end of the day, the plot is a deep dive into the bonds between a parent and a child. Ultimately, that's the biggest message that it's trying to drive home, and it's a conquest of self-importance, because the way, and we'll discuss this a little bit later, but the way that Roy McBride handles his journey, which is borderline a divine comedy level of exploration and conquest through our solar system to reach his father, it's on a level where it's more about his self-discovery and his connection to his father and the differences between him and his father, ultimately, that shape the plot. It winds up being very much a message about how we perceive ourselves, how we go about translating our thoughts into, I guess, like self-importance to such a degree that we actually how important do we perceive ourselves to be in the grand scheme of the universe? Do we feel like we're alone in the universe? Are there other entities out there, other life forms? Can we connect with them? Like, what is the meaning of life? Are we all alone?
And that's Clifford McBride, his father. That was his job when he went out into space on this long voyage to Neptune, was to try and find intelligent life out there to prove that humanity's not alone.
Yes.
But he never came back from that mission. He just went missing.
And then through a series of discoveries, it comes to the realization that there's an Apocalypse Now level mutiny that takes place with Tommy Lee Jones's character. And basically, he went nuts and murdered a bunch of people in the wake of the fact that he could not accept that we were alone. It was almost like that was his entire point to his life.
People wanted to go home because they figured there was nothing else to find. There's nothing. They are alone in the universe, and he wouldn't let them.
That's right.
So rather than deal with a mutiny, he ended up killing everybody.
And it's that grip of failure that winds up being the ultimate message of the film, which is Roy's inevitable confrontation with his father and having to physically and literally cut the rope.
Yeah.
And let his father go. Wound up being some of the most emotional filmmaking I've seen all year. This is easily, by the way, like I know we discussed how much we love this thing, but this very much is one of the best movies I've seen all year.
Yeah, it is beautiful. The story, the characters, everything about this film just took my breath away. And I really wish we'd been able to see it in IMAX now.
Oh my God, I have so many regrets. I wish we'd seen this in a bigger format, a larger scale format.
Could you imagine this in IMAX 3D?
It would be beautiful. I mean, I hate 3D, but I mean, this might be worth it.
But, oh yeah, would have been great.
There's a lot of comparisons with this film to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and not enough to Apocalypse Now. I actually think it's closer to Apocalypse Now. It's very much like what Apocalypse Now was to Vietnam. This is to space. It's very much a deep dive and exploration with one singular character overcoming obstacles and traversing through his own Dante's Inferno-esque hellscape to acquire a very distinct goal at the end. And that goal is often, is in the cases of Apocalypse Now, and it is in the cases of this as well, a singular character. And the character in question in this film is, of course, his father, which adds this extra layer of emotional weight to the story. Because as I mentioned earlier, and we discussed it when it came to the character of Roy McBride, this is a man who does not handle emotions the same way that we do. He's going through a divorce. He has relationship troubles. He has troubles with himself in general. He has a hard time connecting with people. Yeah. And a lot of that probably stems from the abandonment issues that he has with his father, and his journey and exploration to find him winds up being the emotional beats of the film in many ways. And it really hit me. Like it was something that was really effective.
It absolutely was. And there were a couple of spots in this film. There was one in particular where, he's going through space with a team. They're heading to Mars. So he can send the signal, the message hypothetically to his father, because he doesn't know at this point if his father's alive or not. They're going to Mars and they get a mayday call from a nearby ship or a station. So they go on to find that the crew's all dead and there are monkeys in space.
Yeah.
But what I really liked about that little sequence is that it was a little nod to Alien. It felt like a little nod to Alien because, you know, Brad Pitt's character and the captain of the ship he was on go out to try and find if there's anybody still alive on the ship and answer the mayday call. And they separate and they're in these tunnels, like these long corridors in 0G. And there's claw marks on the wall and like... Obviously, something's gone horribly wrong, and you're just waiting for something to happen. And then this monkey comes out of, like, nowhere.
Are you saying that you don't expect monkeys? Because I didn't either.
I'll be totally honest, Skyler, I'm not a fan of monkeys. They kind of scare me. So monkeys in space eating some guy's nose off, that was a little unsettling for me.
Rest in peace, Harambe.
It was really a fun little nod I felt to Alien, though.
I got that too.
Yeah.
And Alien is my favorite film, so it's something that would stand out to me as well. And I did get a little bit of that. It was still shocking and it was effective, and the effects on the monkeys, and I mean, holy shitballs, the effects in this entire movie.
We'll get to it.
Good Lord, I really want to gush.
We will, just a little longer.
All right,
all right. So I think as far as story goes, the only soft spot in this whole thing for me was the ending. And it wasn't like it was an awful ending. It wasn't. It was a very happy ending. However...
That's kind of the problem, though.
That is a little bit of the problem because there wasn't enough explanation. So basically, once they get to Mars and he sends the signal, they finally receive a message back, and then... The military's like, okay, you're done. You can go home now. And Roy McBride's like, what?
Yeah.
Did he answer? What did he say? And so they're going to send the same team that he came to Mars with to Neptune, where his father hypothetically is, to blow it up.
Yes.
This space station that he's on. And he ends up hijacking himself onto the ship before it takes off. And then, accidentally or not, killing everybody on board. Everybody being like 3 people. But killing them.
It was mostly not an accident.
It was self-defense.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, I don't want to do it. Like, I'm not here to hurt anyone.
He has no direct blood on his hands, but there's definitely indirect blood on his hands.
Well, he shouldn't have been there.
That's correct.
That's my problem there. When he, stops the storms, essentially, from happening, saves the Earth, and then he goes back to Earth, but there doesn't seem to be any repercussions for that.
Yeah.
Disobeying orders, and he's the last bit of the movie, you see him sitting at a coffee shop waiting for his ex-wife to show up.
I actually felt the same way. It felt too safe and too easy because my brain immediately went to, okay, first of all, I didn't expect him to escape Neptune at all.
I didn't either. I actually expect him to die out there.
I thought he was going to die out there. I thought it was going to be a bittersweet ending, and honestly, it probably should have been. He should have had his reconnection with his father. I think he should have made a self-sacrifice in the wake of the fact that he is not his father. He's not stepping in his father's footsteps, and he should have made a conscious choice to destroy the base that was causing the electrical impulses, and subsequently let his father go, and then also perish on Neptune together.
Yeah.
I would have preferred that. It would have been a little bleaker, but I think that this film warrants a little bit of a bleakness. It's like an apocalypse now, like I said. Not that it needs to be directly connected to that, but at the same time, it really would have warranted it, and it would have felt more authentic to the story that was being told, as opposed to, he winds up back on Earth, doesn't get court-martialed for some reason, and winds up just waiting in a coffee shop. That just feels too safe and too easy.
Yeah. Although it would have sucked for Liv Tyler to lose yet another husband in space.
I mean, she should be given a medal at this point. Yeah. It was...
So yeah, that was my only real gripe with the story, though, was just the ending.
Yeah, me too. I actually feel exactly the same way. And you hit all of the points that I wanted to make as well. It made for a very squishy landing on an otherwise very psychologically driven, trippy, wonderful, beautiful, and stark exploration through our solar system with Brad Pitt, and delivering quite possibly my favorite performance that he's ever given.
Actually, yeah, I agree 100%. This is probably the best performance I've ever seen from him.
He's amazing in this movie.
He is. If he doesn't win an award of some kind for this, I'd be very surprised.
I know a lot of people are, and we're gonna, maybe we'll cover this on a later episode. I don't know, and I know a lot of people are talking about Joaquin Phoenix and Joker, but I do feel like this is such a understated, emotionally charged performance, and I wasn't anticipating it. It really took me off guard. Really, this whole movie did. I was already really excited to check this thing out, but I left elated completely. Yeah. It was more than I wanted it to be.
I was blown away. I really was. It was not what I expected it to be. It was really just solid from start to finish, with the exception of that last little bit at the end. But even then, I like a happy ending. It was a little too unbelievable.
It was too squishy for me.
It was a little too squishy. But otherwise, everything else, absolutely A1. Loved it.
The last thing I want to talk about, because if I don't talk about it, I might cry, is the visual effects.
Oh, were we getting to that already?
Yeah.
All right.
What do you mean already?
All right.
We're done with the plot. We're done with the performances. This is the next logical thing to talk about.
Fair enough.
Just let me do it.
Okay.
God damn it.
I'm ready to gush about the effects too.
Thank you. Time to go take a nap. Here we go. So, visual effects for this film. I'm calling it right now just because the Academy loves space movies so much. I think this is probably going to win the Oscar this year for visual effects.
Yeah?
Yeah, I am going to, if I had to, without seeing the closing roster of films that are selected, it's my early bet that this will win. It's that good.
There you go, Internet. Now you have it officially in this podcast. That's where his bet is.
You can use the soundbite. You can turn me into a meme. I don't care. It's fine.
Oh, some of your students.
And if I'm wrong,
that,
you can hold it against me. I don't care. This thing is gorgeous.
This is a beautiful
stunning
movie.
Piece of work.
Absolutely.
Front to back. I wasn't expecting the use of color.
Oh my God. You get so wrapped up in the colors.
Every single planet that Roy visits has a distinct look about it and a very authentic, true to life look. Like Mars has a differentiation to, say, Earth, and then Neptune, of course. There's a vibrancy and a realism that is embedded into this film. They visit the moon as well. There's these bases that are little hubs in space, because this is, again, it's in the not too distant future. And what they managed to craft with very tactile, very practical visual effects is to make a believable future. I love when science fiction does this. I love when it basically it's doing world building with small tiny little sprinklings of visuals and winds up making something that feels genuinely authentic and something that is very plausible in our own world today. Colonizing on something like Mars or the moon makes an awful lot of sense, and it's something that NASA and others, basically scientists, have been talking about for a long time. It's a possibility. And something that was really interesting to me in set design was making a distinction between these different hubs, making them feel genuinely different, using filters and editing and just good color contrasting and color theory to make you feel like you're in a completely different atmosphere depending on which location he visits. There's so many shots in this movie that are just utter eye candy. I don't even know where to start. It really blew me away. There's a sequence where Roy is traversing through, it's what I would like to call the 2001 moment, where he's traversing through literal water. He's wading through water to come out the other end to, I guess, this is where he's breaching into the ship to break in.
Sneaking onto the ship to get on board.
Yeah, that entire sequence was so psychologically and beautifully well crafted. It really played with your mind a lot, and as did his journey through space in general. There was a moment where he's having a monologue about the effects that space is having on him psychologically. He's seeing spots, he's seeing visions and things like that, because basically the journey through space is taking a toll. It's cabin fever. It's 80
days from Mars to Neptune.
Right. It's isolation and
he's killed everybody on board that might have kept him company. So,
Yeah, and I don't care if you're emotionless or not. That's going to take a toll on you.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to process that in whatever way you need to. But his character very realistically and noticeably really takes a hit after that traversal past Mars. And then the film actually bothers to show Jupiter and Saturn, subsequent planets, and the way that these are rendered are on such a large scale, and it feels so good. Like, I know we already talked about it, but I really need to comment again on the opening sequence with the satellite, where his pulse doesn't go past 85. He survives a giant wreckage. I actually got serious vertigo during that sequence. Like, when he is falling down to Earth, I don't know what it is about. It's like skydiving sequences or sequences from high up. There was a believable height differential between the atmosphere and Earth that felt so authentic and so real that it actually kind of like, I got pulled right in, and it made me feel genuine vertigo. It was very impressive.
They use some really clever tricks in this movie, and I was aware of it because I do a lot of meditation myself, which focuses on breathing and zoning out, essentially focusing on your breathing. And a lot of the shots, especially in space, where he's on his own, you can hear his calm breathing. So even when he was falling, for example, at the beginning of the movie, I wasn't alarmed because his breathing was so calming. It's sort of,
that's a good point.
They employ something kind of like a cinematic hypnotism almost.
You said that when we left.
Yeah, where they're using swaths of color, breathing, the deep space synth music. All are very calming. They're all at such a level that you don't really feel the anxiety. And that's brilliant, actually. I think it was absolutely brilliant because the whole thing felt like a meditation, with the exception of the space monkeys, in which case I was like, no.
That was one really tense part.
It was, yeah.
I think that's actually a really apt description. I think your analogy of a meditation very much is how I felt when I left. It was like this very like calming state. I felt elated by the film because I really enjoyed what I was seeing, but it did have a meditative state. It was a hypnotic in like the best possible way, because we haven't mentioned the runtime on this thing. A very refreshing 2 hours.
Yeah,
which was nice.
Really easy, really manageable.
Yeah, it was a breezy 2 hours too. Like I never once felt like I needed to look at my watch or anything. I wanted to be there. I wanted to enjoy it.
Yeah, I was completely absorbed in the film from start to finish. And like I said, their use of effects, lighting, breathing, the sound, the score. I'm still waiting for the soundtrack to drop. I'm hoping real soon.
This swelling, emotionally charged, beautiful score that just like punctuates the whole film.
Absolutely.
Great sound design on the weapons. It's a small thing, but it goes really real far with me. Like, I liked the weapons in this. They were practical and made a ton of sense to me. They weren't like over the top lasers or anything like that.
They were handheld pistols, sidearms, like not.
They had a kick to them. It was a very practically driven, very well thought out mechanism that punctuated the sounds of those weapons. It was very cool. I really liked it. And they worked in 0G, so they had to have a distinctive sound effect that accompanied that. That was just really good sound design.
Overall, visually, I would watch this movie again and again and again.
I want to revisit this one and unpack it a little more, because there's actually quite a lot to dive into on a layered level. Like, our next film that we have coming up is very much falls into the same bracket as this. We picked it specifically because it falls into this bracket, but I love science fiction that is layered. It has an overarching plot that a general audience can pick up and dive into and really get involved with, but it also has tiny nuances throughout, and it's using the science fiction genre to tell us a little something about ourselves. And this movie checks all the boxes. It does it for me completely. So with that, we should probably do numbers.
Yeah, let's do numbers.
Why don't you start?
What? Really?
Do you want me to go first?
No, it's all right. I'll go
right.
first. All right. This movie was fantastic, with the small exception that the ending didn't quite land for me. It was a little unbelievable. That said, I do like a happy ending. The score, the design, Brad Pitt's acting, everybody I loved. I'm giving Ad Astra, quite possibly the highest score I've given out this year, 9.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're going for...
I am going 9.5. I've debated 9, but again, at this point, having only seen the film once, I can't think of another reason to dock points right now. If I saw it for a second time, I might change my rating, but for now, 9.5. I want to see this again.
I completely agree. I also loved this movie. It's kind of hard to find faults with it, the biggest being the squishy ending, which I think bothered me maybe a little more than it bothered you, because I really wanted to see something else. I would love to see another cut of this. I don't think this movie is going to be for everyone. especially if you're paying attention to the marketing. If you go into this thing thinking for even a second that this is an action movie, you're going to be sorely disappointed. It's a journey. It's an art house journey through space. And because of that, I loved it more. I didn't want an action movie. I wanted something more thought-provoking. So on that note, I think this movie is structurally perfect. I think it's beautiful. I want to revisit it again, and it is easily one of the best movies I've seen all year. I'm going with a 9 out of 10 on this one. Had the ending have been just twisted around a little more, I would have went even higher and potentially even given it a 10.
Yeah. Though that was it for me too. It's like, you know, again, I like a happy ending. This one just didn't quite make enough sense to me. I'd love to know if there's a deleted scene.
Absolutely.
Or
an
of
alternate
a court
ending.
martial of some kind or repercussions of some kind. But I mean, he did save the world, so I don't know. Either way, I enjoyed this. I'm going to stick with the 9.5 for now.
An alternate ending on the Blu-ray would fix all of this.
Just throwing it out there in case there are any executives listening to our little old podcast.
Yeah. Mr. James Gray.
Just, you know.
Good job.
Woo!
All right.
So, going further into space now, because, you know, that's what we're going to do this episode.
Kind of space.
Kind of. We're definitely going further into the future.
We're going into the future for sure.
Yeah.
And more specifically, we're going into a dystopian, very distinct future. This is Blade Runner 2049. Directed by Denis Villeneuve. Sorry if I butchered your name. I think I got it. We plunge back into the gritty, neon-drenched sci-fi landscape through the eyes of Officer K, a new Blade Runner for the LAPD. K uncovers an earth-shattering secret that will change the dynamic and relationship between replicant and human alike. His discovery leads him on a conquest to seek out Rick Deckard to unravel this mystery before the world plunges into further chaos.
I loved the original Blade Runner. I did. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I'd love to watch it again to see if it holds up. Blade Runner 2049 was really, really good. I enjoyed it.
I'm curious if you enjoy it more than the original or not, because I personally love this movie to pieces, and I think it's better than the original. I'll go into why shortly, but I want to get your opinion because this is very fresh for you.
Well, yeah, 2049 is really fresh for me. I think in order to give like an accurate comparison and try and figure out which one I like more, I actually have to watch Blade Runner again just to see the parallels and see which one really holds up for me.
That's fair. I've seen both of these movies quite a lot. I've watched the original Blade Runner several times, and to be honest, when I first saw Blade Runner, I didn't entirely enjoy it. I liked it aesthetically, but I found the plot a bit meandering and the pacing was off for me. I found it to be a bit of a bore until the very end with the penultimate chase sequence with Roy Batty and
Tears in the Rain.
I love that scene. Everyone does. It's great.
And
it's iconic for a reason.
And I love that they brought it in at the end of this one. That absolutely tugged on all my heartstrings.
We'll get to that later.
Anyway.
We don't want to jump to the end yet.
I guess not. No. All right.
That being said, personally, I found this movie to be more effective because at the end of the day, Blade Runner, as a film with a very distinct aesthetic, it's noir, it's mystery in a science fiction dystopian future. And the biggest fault that the original Blade Runner has is the mystery in question, the noir to speak of, is given to the audience. The answer and solution is given to the audience right at the beginning of the film. This is a movie that is very much about the replicants and not so much about the detective. It's not about Deckard at all. It has nothing to do with him. It's more about replicants trying to find some sort of meaning to their lives and basically comparing themselves to humans. Do they have as much value as humans? And they're seeking and they're trying to like obtain that. That's very much in my books kind of what the original was. It's more of a message that's being driven home and less of a noir. This film has all of the messages as well, multi-layered, and also has a mystery, a noir. Now, this mystery in question, of course, is not something that's necessarily going to work for everyone because some people, Hallie,
may looking at me.
may unravel the mystery before it's delivered to you in a very punctuated, big, grandiose, emotional way, like it did on me. I actually was very moved by this film.
It's very, very well done.
But at least there's a mystery.
It wasn't for me. There was no mystery here. I had this figured out from the beginning.
Regardless, there's an attempt to structurally deliver a message and a mystery over the course of a film, as opposed to the original Blade Runner, which gives you the facade of a mystery and then doesn't give it to you at all. It's given away distinctly and purposefully at the beginning of the film. So I feel like this was a bit more up my alley. And I mean, we'll cover this later, but just on a sheer aesthetic level, this movie is perfect. Utterly perfect.
Beautiful. Yeah. But we will get to that.
Yes. So what did you, in your opinion, where this is fresh, I'm curious about what your thoughts are on this, because I have a couple years of unpacking with this movie and a full-blown analysis that everyone's, I'm sure, just riveted to hear. That's a lie. It's going to be boring. Here we go. What did you think this movie was about?
It was a mystery, for sure. I mean, I've also seen this kind of plot play out before in, don't look at me weird, in an anime from a long time ago called Armitage the Third.
Cool.
Which has replicants of a sort called thirds, which are capable of giving birth to humans to kind of help combat a population issue that they're having in the future. Anyway, so I've seen this kind of birth situation come up in a show before. I loved this movie. I thought it was actually really, really well done, even though I had figured out the mystery and the twist mystery at the end well before any of this really came about.
Well, okay. Let me re-examine the question again.
Go ahead.
What is your takeaway from the main character, Ryan Gosling's character? Other than the fact that he has the most badass, at this point, the most badass collection of coats I think any actor has in history.
I want one of those
I want all of his coats. I want the scorpion coat from Drive.
Okay. That coat that he uses in this is very similar, if not identical, to one that Leia uses in the last Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it's so
with
fucking cool.
That collar that comes up and becomes like a face shield.
Yeah.
Where can I find that coat? I need one. My nose gets real cold in the winter.
Audience, please leave a comment.
Please
tell us where to get these coats.
Tell me where I can get this coat.
We need coats.
We're so cold.
We live in Canada.
We live in Canada. We live in the Maritimes. We're cold. Tell us where we can get these coats, please.
I want to be cold and stylish.
That's right. Yeah, we want to be fashionable here. But I liked his character. There's a lot to unpack with this character.
Yes, there is. First of all, the biggest and most glaring thing, he is meaningless.
He really is.
Completely meaningless. And
my heart kind of breaks for him.
Absolutely.
For that, because he's meaningless. He then thinks he finds meaning because he believes that the whole mystery here is that the replicant from the first Blade Runner, Rachel, it's discovered is dead, but she gave birth, which shouldn't be possible for a replicant to do.
No.
They are incapable of giving birth, and yet she did. And so the mystery comes about what happened to this child, how is it possible? And it's up to Kay, Ryan Gosling's character, to find the child. And through the jigs and the reels and following the clues, he is led to believe he is that child. Of course, that turns out that he's not. And so he had meaning, and then it was ripped away from him.
Well, see here, that's one way of looking at it.
It was really hard
It is ripped away from him, but he does still find meaning. It's the meaning that he discovers that's actually kind of the message, the grandiose message of the entire film. Like, Kay learns the true meaning of life. That is, a soul is something to be constructed, and it's not existing prior to some miracle. Like, it's not defined by a miracle. Things we don't live by some prophecy. We don't live by this like code. We
are the miracles.
We are all in our own distinct ways miracles unto ourselves. Whether we are a human or a man-made created machine, we're all tiny miracles. And he discovers self-worth in himself and decides to make some big choices despite discovering that he's not special. This has been shoved down his throat and the audience's throat for the larger part of the film.
For about 3/4 of the film.
Yeah, that he is special over and over and over again. Even Batista, which in a great fight sequence at the beginning of the movie, says that you've never seen a miracle before. And it's basically a foreshadowing to the audience of what the miracle really is, which is not actually Kay at all. Kay's drive that pushes him forward is escalated by this whole prospect of being potentially special, but it's the punctuality in him discovering that through that self-discovery that even his memories are meaningless. His memories aren't his. They're implanted.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a heart-wrenching and guttural response. Like, even though he's essentially like an android, like he's not human, he delivers a very human response. And Ryan Gosling's performance is not spoken of enough in this. Like, I mean, he does very stoic, cold, distant very well, but like I loved his performance. I thought he played a replicant extremely well.
He did, yeah. His performance was great. The character of Joy, his 3D girlfriend.
There's so much to unpack in this movie. Like, even the fact that his girlfriend is a hologram.
It's an AI.
It's an AI. It's a program. That speaks a lot of volumes to his issues with connection in this world, this dystopian, gritty world. This world, by the way, where we have actually disintegrated nature as we know it. Like, the distinction between mechanisms and machinery and infrastructure has now occluded nature completely. The world is created and manufactured by a blind man. Think about that. Who has a god complex.
Oh, you mean Jared Leto?
Yes, who's
Leto,
coincidentally playing a man with a god complex. I wonder why he did such a good job. Rolls eyes. He's a talented actor, but a little up his own ass, I think, you know?
I'm still annoyed about his Joker.
We don't want to talk about that on this podcast.
You really don't want me to talk about that.
We can rave about that for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's a different show altogether, I think.
Yeah. So basically, the point being is that despite the fact that he's not this messiah character, but some prophesized beacon of light, Kay decides to still move forward with his quest to assist Deckard in reconnecting with his missing child.
Yeah.
And does it in the most heroic and believable way possible. He barely succeeds, to the point where we have, and this ties really well with Ad Astra, we have our bittersweet, beautiful ending. The fact that this ending ends with snow and he passes away on the stairs.
And they're playing the song Tears in the Rain.
Yes.
From the
it's
first
so beautiful.
It is so
God,
gorgeous.
It gets me every single time I see it.
Oh, the feels. There were so many feels, because that last scene in the original Blade Runner is so iconic, and that they ended this one with that same tune, that same kind of repose for Kay was really a beautiful
so
nod
great.
and a beautiful ending. It was really, really well done.
And there's tiny little bits of world building in this, because this is another thing too, is like speaking about this from the angle of a sequel. This movie does so many good things that most sequels don't do. Like,
it's rare where you find a movie where the sequel actually is as good as, or I think for you, better than the original.
I consider this to be better, because it does everything the original film does, but better. The pacing's better. It's longer than the first movie, and yet somehow feels brisker. I can watch this movie and not bat an eye at the fact that this is almost 3 hours long. I don't care. The pacing is inconsequential to the fact that every single frame of this film is utterly beautiful. It's first of all, I mean, about damn time he got an Oscar, but Roger Deakins shot this thing, and this is a man that just on a cinematography level has created some of the very best shots in cinema history, and this movie is just utter eye candy. You just want to rip every frame off the screen and put it on your wall. It's so beautiful. Like, the lighting is probably the most noteworthy thing. There's very, very careful, well-placed visual effects.
The use of color, again, like in Ad Astra, the use of color in this was really beautiful.
Well, my inevitable suggestion to do Blade Runner 2049 was entirely because I wasn't expecting Ad Astra to be as gorgeous as it was.
That's right. We weren't sure what we were going to pair Ad Astra with, because we couldn't figure out what kind of movie Ad Astra was going to be.
Because the advertising was so confusing.
It was. It came across as an action movie, and it just wasn't.
They literally had no idea how to advertise it.
No. And actually, I think it was a really great pairing in the end that we chose. And that's entirely on you, because I hadn't seen Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, as soon as we left, I was like, this is it.
And I was like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And I think I got this one right, because
you sure did.
The message of this movie is very similar as well. Like, we're at Ad Astra is very much us accepting the fact that if we are all alone in the universe, that's okay. And that there is still meaning in life, despite the fact that our acceptance of what happens after death, our acceptance of the fact that we are alone, like, that is all punctuated by what we do with our life. It's about what we do with our soul. And the high upper echelon message of Blade Runner is replicants seeking out their soul. They want to know if they have a soul.
Does this unit have a soul?
Oh my God.
That's for all the Mass Effect junkies out there like myself.
I can see you like beaming over there. I was waiting for it. There's gonna be a Mass Effect thing coming soon. Yeah. For all you video game fans out there.
Huge junkie me.
Yeah. I mean, really, that's kind of it. This movie is very much about finding distinctiveness in humanity and what it means to be human, which very much is what the original Blade Runner was about. It's about accepting the fact that despite replicants are man-made, they are developing, growing creatures like us. The question of what is a soul and how we relate to each other in the world around us is also a heavily talked about message in Blade Runner, and the world in this is something that we'll move into next, because I think that is something that even is more important to talk about than even the characters in this movie.
Okay, so talking about world, we fucked up.
Oh yeah.
In this, it is a dystopian future. Nature, dead. Trees, dead. Animals, probably fake, brought back through bioengineering. And the cities are stacks upon stacks upon stacks of buildings. It's
On
an
paper.
anthill.
Oh yeah, on paper, this is the ugliest sounding future ever put to film for science fiction.
Visually,
it is stunning.
Absolutely stunning. There's a lot of I got a lot of Fifth Element vibes from it.
Yeah.
You know, that building on building, the flying car. I mean, it's the standard sci-fi.
I mean, Fifth Element borrowed a lot from Blade Runner, to be fair.
Yeah, it's true.
But
So, it's
we
all
love
one big cycle.
We love Fifth Element.
Oh my God, I adore that film.
That's right, folks. We don't just love horror movies. We
like sci-fi too.
I love sci-fi.
And sci-fi horror, that's just a marriage made in heaven.
It really is.
Among the stars, you might say.
Holy crap.
Anyway.
Groans.
No regrets. It is amazing. I love neon lights, and I love the use of neon lights in
the use of color in this movie is so smart.
It is. It's really well done.
First of all, okay, a little bit of like a history lesson with the original Blade Runner. The look and feel of this cyberpunk aesthetic, we now know as the Blade Runner aesthetic. Like, it has that dark, neon-drenched, rainy, dirty, gritty cityscapes with like the long coats and everything. Like, we love that, right? Mm-hmm. That was a total accident. The original Blade Runner was very much supposed to be like a day-night cycle. They were going to shoot it over the course of several days in the world of the movie and show it at both spectrums of day versus night. And most of the film is completely and entirely done at night because of the limitations of the effects at the time. They basically were like, this movie looks like hot garbage. How do we fix it? Oh, make it nighttime and make it rain constantly and everything's shrouded in mist. And suddenly the effects pop. The neon lights pop. All of the mistakes are hidden. It's the rule of Jurassic Park. What do you do with the giant CGI T-Rex? You make it raining and you make it nighttime, and suddenly the dated effects aren't dated anymore. They look
Can't
great.
Notice it. Yeah, there's so much going on. Like, it's hard to establish any kind of class hierarchy.
No.
In
That's
this
right.
world, because everything just looks dirty and gritty. I mean, with the exception of like the police station, which even then has its own kind of sterile, cold.
Everything is very sterile and cold. I think that's the best way to describe it. Yeah. And like Wallace's chambers couldn't feel more like, it's reflective of what he feels about himself.
Yeah.
It's this drenched in gold. It feels like it's underwater. The use of color and light and the way the light actually hits the walls, it feels almost like a pharaoh-like Egyptian.
It does. It feels really Egyptian.
Yeah.
In its use of color and its just design. It makes you feel lesser being there, which is what he wants.
The
right?
birthing chamber sequence is pretty gross.
Yeah, it was unpleasant.
One of the coolest effects I saw that in the year that this came out was actually an overlaying effect during a romance sequence. Where I guess she's a prostitute. She offers herself to Kay to have an emotional connection through physical touch with his girlfriend, who is a hologram.
Exactly.
Joy. And basically they overlay the hologram effects over top of the physical actor who's playing the prostitute, and it is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
It is a really cool effect. I liked the effect, and I liked that. I could have done without that scene.
It's a little weird and it feels disjointed from the rest of the movie for sure.
There was
the
no
effect
real
almost
lead
made
up
up for
to
it for me, because it's kind of like it's a punctuation of like him attempting to have feelings for something And that scene becomes all the more important and tragic when later on, after Joy's demise, you see him interact with the giant advertisement of Joy and how this is actually just a manufactured, just like everything else in this world. It's basically a copy, a carbon copy. It's a manufactured item that people can just purchase, and it does whatever you want it to do.
Yeah.
And that look of just like sadness on his face.
It was heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah. And it's a beautiful scene. One of the most gorgeous looking things I've ever seen. Like, it's so awesome.
Yeah. It had a lot going for it, this one, visually speaking.
I just love the messaging. It's a perfect science fiction movie in my books. It's layered messaging. There's a driving force in the mystery. The characters are interesting. It has a lot to say about us as people. There's a lot of world building that I found really interesting and engaging, and I actually want to see more of this world. The use of Harrison Ford, I really liked. I thought he was he downplayed his performance and was able to channel the feeling of Deckard, even at the ripe old age of 750 or whatever he is now.
You're really riffing on those older actors tonight, aren't you?
I love them, but my God.
The use of Deckard in it was really good. The callbacks to Rachel as well from the first movie.
That was a visual effect. So it was completely CGI.
Yeah, I believe that.
It was amazing. It looked awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I did.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a wrap up on it, really. I could talk about this at length, but I'm not going to do that to you, audience. I care about you. If you want me to do an analysis of this thing, or you want to read an analysis of this, I would love to write one for you. Otherwise, we'll probably put a pin in this and move to numbers.
Numbers. Well, I went first last time, so haha, your turn.
Cool. Mine's easy. I think this movie's perfect.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Are you going to give it
I am, yeah.
First one on this show?
My first 10 out of 10 is for Blade Runner 2049. I don't dislike a single thing in this movie. I can watch it and just be immersed. It does everything a movie should do for me, especially in this genre. I thought about it a lot because I was leaning towards a 9.5 for this one, just because I'm like, well, it is 2 hours and 45 minutes, but then I keep asking myself, do I care that it's 2 hours and 45 minutes? And the answer undoubtedly is no, because I'm completely immersed the entire time. I'm engaged with the plight of the character, the look of the movie. I can't turn my eyes away. I just love the filmmaking approach to this. I think Denis Villeneuve is probably one of the best directors working today. Every single one of his movies has something to say and is just masterfully done. Can't wait for his Dune movie. That's going to be super exciting. Yeah, it's, to me, personally, it's perfect. And it's a perfect sequel.
Fair enough.
Hallie, your turn.
Well, I am going to give Blade Runner 2049 a 9.5. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really good sequel. There were questions for me about the ending. Like, I wanted to know, okay, what's going on with Wallace then? You know, he's just failed at securing this child he'd been hunting. I had questions about what was going to happen next with the replicants that were protecting this child. So there's a setup for another movie there. And I don't like it when it's obvious. I don't like movies that don't stand on their own. I understand it with certain things like It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Obviously, you need Chapter 2. I don't like it that this doesn't stand on its own. And I feel like it could have been concluded a little cleaner. But other than that, I enjoyed this. I thought it was really fun. I loved the nods to the original. I loved bringing back Harrison Ford. I thought that the story was well crafted. 9.5. I didn't give it a perfect 10, but that movie is out there somewhere for me. So that's it.
Excellent. We have some top tier science fiction for y'all today.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, we can do stuff other than horror.
It's true. Get used to it because we have a couple more in the pipe that are leaning against that genre, although we do have some spooky surprises for you.
It is the Halloween month, so we're not going to be like, no, nothing spooky. We're not
heartless here.
We got something. And also, it should be noted now, because it's beginning of October, 31st of October is the official 1 year of Eldritch Creative.
That's a huge deal.
That is a huge deal. So we will be doing something for that. We don't know what yet, but
we're figuring it out.
And yeah, we have a special something at the end of the month, one way or another.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. Yeah.
As always, you can find us on our Facebook page. We should also mention, if you haven't seen it already, our short film that we shot in March, Guardian, is on YouTube now.
We just released that. That's huge news.
We did.
Last week. Yeah.
Why didn't we mention that earlier? We should have mentioned. Anyway,
Doesn't matter.
It's out there. You can look it up. Go to YouTube. Look up Guardian Horror Short. You'll find it. It'll be like one of the first ones that pops up.
We're very proud of this thing.
We are.
We made it with no money and very little resources and a very small team.
One weekend. So
2 days.
Very proud to have it out there. We'd love you to follow us. Subscribe to our channel. We're going to have other stuff showing up on there in the not too distant future,
including more short films down the pipe that we really
we're
want
into pre-production.
to start working on.
Yeah. So Facebook page, you can follow us there, get updates, what's going on. Twitter is Eldritch Create. Our Instagram, eldritch.creative. I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's about it.
So thanks for tuning in again, listening to us talk about movies, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.